sio tutui pesi ne sinuhu.
Sing a new song to the Lord. Let the whole earth sing to the Lord. Publish his glorious deeds among the nations. Tell everyone about the amazing things he does.
In Psalm 96, we're instructed to sing to the Lord a new song and declare his glory among the nations. But what does that look like in a people group when they first become Christians and don't have a history of singing to the Lord? While the Passion Translation can be a bit too free, it is interesting that they translate Psalm 96, 1a, as let everyone in every language sing him a new song. One way to sing a new song is to sing in the languages and music styles of the nations. When the first Nuaulu people were baptized in 1970, music was not a big part of their lives. In their traditional religion, the most common rituals that were performed did not include music, and the few that did were rarely performed. Given this cultural background, what should their worship look like? When the first Nuaulu people became Christians, they continued to live in their old village. There they were forbidden to sing Christian songs for fear of angering the ancestors. So music was not a part of their initial Christian experience. How were they to obey Psalm 96 and sing a new song to the Lord? Initiated Nuaulu men wear red headcloth. They recognized this as the most salient symbol of Nuaulu identity. But when the Nuaulu first became Christians, they were forbidden from wearing it. This was seen as a rejection of Nuaulu identity by those still following the traditional religion. Their first pastors also forbid them from attending rituals and ceremonies that are part of Nuaulu beliefs. They could no longer help their non-Christian relatives with these ceremonies, which was seen as offensive by their relatives. They were disinherited and lost their rights to family-owned coconut and clove trees. When they formed their own village, they sung translated Western hymns in Indonesian, which is not a language they understand well. There was no musical accompaniment. Many could not read, so they weren't able to read songbooks, but very few could afford the songbooks. So again, music was not a big part of their Christian experience. Ake recalls that singing wasn't even part of her Sunday school experience. They didn't sing, they only learned Bible stories. The church had no musical instruments, so all singing was a cappella.
Naoneremo alat musik tewa. Hanya menyanyi sanimani.
Eso sopan.
Rasai nosani sunyi sanrei. Nesan muye ini nosa alat musik nia. Reiso nosa ni rasa gerat. Menyanyi penuh sukacita hanrei. Yang naonerem tewasi.
Eli was baptized with his family in 2002. By this time, when Nuaulu people became Christians, they were no longer encouraged to reject anything Nuaulu. Eli wrote an indigenous Nuaulu song about becoming a Christian and sung it at his baptism. Eli shares about his experience with the Western hymns sung in church when he first became a Christian.
Au unususarane matanoe mawatinusio o manyanyi tau kedun jemaat. Ne waneri ya tewa. Sunani o manyanyi kataso. Ne manyanyi maina sapante oi tawaneri ya tewa. Oyo upusu watinusio manyanyi oyo upusu watinu oyo manyanyi pusu-pusu so. Ne aron yuanere man. Ne aron wanere tewa re. Oremo umanyanyi ria ketewa. Sanis kapata tau souna unwe. Orem bisa uhete. Tau kapata souna unwe mu nene not tewa. Ne kedunjemat mo karane ne not. Matamu wane mosa-mosa ne not tewa. Eiso potuina sama tero umanyanyi.
Each Nuaulu song genre has a distinct melody, but the same 2 or 3 lines are basically repeated. Also, all songs of a genre are sung to the same melody. It wasn't until I donated a keyboard to the village church in 2015 that worship started being accompanied by an instrument. And that was after one of the young men in the congregation learned how to play that keyboard. Today, the keyboard is such a part of their worship services that when the pastor announced in 2019 they were going to begin to have ethnic services and pointed out that keyboards are not ethnic musical instruments and asked them to use something else, when they actually had the service, again, all they used was the keyboard. The songs were sung in the Nuaulu language. Some we had translated from hymns at a hymn writing workshop we had held in the past. Some had been written in a songwriting workshop we held in the village in 2018.
Coba sama-sama. Om keras bang. Ukuku anahatana arui me kawasa osima pusu nanie asopa.
Most songs composed in the workshop used Western music, but several were indigenous Nuaulu songs to some degree. There is interest in singing a new song to the Lord using the Nuaulu music style. In 2020, I surveyed the congregation trying to find out their impression of these ethnic services. One thing I asked about was musical instruments. One of my aims was to find out their thoughts on the musical instruments that had been used and that could potentially be used. What did they consider ethnic? What would be more Nuaulu? A lot of them suggested other instruments that could be used. Bamboo flutes were the most common because that was a musical instrument that had been used in the denomination in the past. Next most common was the ukulele. Nowadays, ukulele groups, especially among children, are very popular in local schools and churches. A few thought only hand drums should be used because that is the only real ethnic Nuaulu instrument that could be used to accompany songs. Then about that time, I saw on Facebook that there was a local church musician carrying out bamboo flute workshops in the next presbytery, going from church to church, teaching children in each church how to play the bamboo flute. So I contacted him and invited him to come and do a workshop for us, which he did in 2021. It was only several days long, but about 30 kids learned how to play the bamboo flute. Unfortunately, they weren't really able to continue because that was when the Delta COVID strain had come in and church services were once again not in person, and so the kids weren't playing. As a result, the bamboo flutes didn't really take off. Some people still remembered, and occasionally they would be played, but nothing much. A year or so later, I was able to pull a few strings and get one of the men who had helped teach the kids in that workshop assigned to our village church as an intern before he was ordained. He spent over a year in the village teaching the kids how to play the bamboo flute, and the ukulele, and a number of them learned how to play quite well. He also trained several of the young people to help work with the kids and teach them more, teach new ones. But unfortunately, we've lost all of those at the current time. One got married, and 2 others have been involved in conflicts in the village and aren't active at all or very much anymore. In the last month or so, somebody has been working with the kids again, but he's not really a musician. He can't teach them how to play the flute or the ukulele. He can't teach new children. So we're just kind of hanging in there, but kids are happy to be playing once again, although we've lost a number of them. Today, singing Christian songs in the Nuaulu language, praying in Nuaulu, wearing red headcloth, and affirming their Nuaulu identity in other ways during ethnic services and other Christian events helps Nuaulu Christians form an identity that is both Christian and Nuaulu. They are able to sing to the Lord a new song. Their new songs enriching the church as the Nuaulu are represented in the worship offered up by the nations.